too much on this. Let's take a look at another pressing concern in the Black community. Second concern, high rate of mental illness among Black people. The second concern we want to discuss is the high rate of mental health problems among African Americans. Mental illnesses, like depression, are quite common among the general population, but studies have shown that its prevalence is especially high in Black communities. According to Mental Health America, an estimated 13.4% of all Americans are Black, and among these, more than 16% have a reported mental illness. This figure equals more than 7 million Black people having to live with these conditions. There are different things that contribute to the high rate of mental illnesses in Black communities, and according to reports, the fact that modern-day racism is still present is a big factor. There are also disparities that need to be taken into consideration here. We have to consider the fact that a lot of Black communities don't have access to the care they need to address these mental illnesses, and when these people don't get the treatment they need, the conditions can have a major impact on their health, quality of life, and productivity. To get a better picture, we should look at some statistics. Studies have found that Black people in the U.S. are much more likely to have feelings of worthlessness and hopelessness when compared to white people in the country. Apart from these, feelings of sadness are also higher in Black communities. When looking at teenagers, the likeliness of attempting suicide is also higher in African Americans. Researchers found that the suicide attempt rate is about 6.1% among white teenagers, but 9.8% among Black teenagers. Between 2008 and 2018, there was also a significant increase in the prevalence of mental illnesses among Black people in the country, and this leads to extra problems. For example, research has also shown that Black people with these illnesses have a greater risk of turning to marijuana, cigarettes, illicit drugs, and binge drinking. Plus, some studies have also stated that Black people tend to be affected by depression at greater levels of severity when compared to other populations or communities. This all creates big problems, as conditions like depression, especially when it goes untreated, can result in poor productivity. Issues with concentration, headaches, fatigue, and much more. In the long term, this can have a big impact on the lives and well-being of Black people. Third concern, destruction of the family structure. They say family is everything, and when I say family, I'm talking about a loving home with a father, mother, and kids. A home with responsible parents will more likely raise kids who have morals and discipline. Anything other than that can be absolutely chaotic to individuals and the communities they live in. Unfortunately, a proper family structure has been lacking in America's Black communities for as long as most of us can remember. According to a 2002 study, it was discovered that more than 70% of Black kids in America were illegitimate. Are you surprised? Well, don't be, because there is a strong reason for this.
The very beginning of the welfare system was the passage of the aid to dependent mothers early in the New Deal. And you know what? It was perfectly reasonable.
The disintegration of the Black family structure began in slavery, where they did evil things to tear us apart, but really ramped up in 1963, when the U.S. government declared welfare as a right. Sure, getting money from the government has its perks, but believe me when I say its downsides are much greater. After welfare became law, Black women stopped getting married and began raising kids as single mothers. The case is still the same today, as there are just too many Black households that do not have fathers.
The only way you cannot be emotional is you have to have a father who teaches you and trains your emotion. Other than that, your mama, you have to be emotional, because that's the only time your mother whoops you. You got no spanking. Your mother was calm and not emotional. So that's why you're emotional. You were disciplined with emotion. You weren't disciplined with logical rules to follow. You got spanked when you were frustrated. You didn't get spanked calmly and taught while you were being spanked. So you can't undo this. Only what's done now, we can't undo this. We'll be dead and gone before we see a new group of men that don't respond like us.
As a Black man, what can I instill in a young Black boy to make sure that he doesn't respond with emotion?
Treat his mother right and train your child's emotions. So you got to spend time with your son. You got to spend a lot of time with your son.
For most kids in the hood without a father at home, the streets will become their teachers.
All right, I feel like talking today. You know, this is a subject that really hits home and is quite on point, you know, about fathers not being in the household. But fathers being in the household. Okay. Because you're not in the household, that don't mean you don't have to still be a dad. So that's where the cop out is at, because if you love your child or your children, you're not going to just stop loving them because they're not in the household or you're not in the household. So we're going to stop put that narrative on the women because they got on welfare. The notion was, and the trade-off was, you couldn't have a male in your house like a husband. And I understand why. You know what I'm saying? I understand why. Because why that man in your household not providing a life for you? I get it. So we're gonna give you food stamps and insurance for your kids. What is he doing? Is he in a trade program trying to better himself, trying to get, a job? Is he in school trying to further his education? I mean, what is he doing? So I get it. They ain't giving you this money in the insurance or the stamps for everybody to be lazy. Okay? It's a benefit which has been exploited. I get it. You know, I'm like this. If you choose to live your life like that, you're not ambitious, you don't want nothing out of life, then do your thing. Because that's your right. That's your right. You know, I just feel like we've been at a disadvantage from the gate. And some people look at things as, I'm going to get over on the government because the government been treating me bad. It's been treating me unfair from the gate. So anything that I can utilize to my advantage, I'm going to do it. Whether society agree with it or not. I get it. That ain't particularly my story because I've been taught to be ambitious. Go out in this world and get what you want, meaning what's for you going to be for you. I come from that structure of life, whereas though, sky's the limit. Don't let where you from determine where you going. That's the schooling I got from my structure, my infrastructure, which was my household. And I get it. A lot of people don't have that infrastructure because they don't have the key people in their life: a dad, a grandma, a mom, you know. But I hope if these three elements are not in place, that somebody influences you. Somebody is in your ear encouraging you to do the right things. It could be an auntie, an uncle, a neighbor, but it hit different when it's coming from your mom, your dad, your grandmothers, your grandfathers. So I'm just saying, I'm talking from experience directly, because this was my infrastructure, my dad, my grandma, my mother, and the supporting cast, but that was my big three. That was my three big three. My father was a street dude. So he often told me, you're going to be the better version of me. You're not going to make the mistakes I made. You're going to be on the straight and narrow. You're going to go to school and you're going to be somebody in society. You're not going to give the system time out your life. You know, you're going to do what is there to do out here in this world. You know, he always was pressing me to go in the military, but we're a product of what we see at the end of the day. And my whole thing was, Dad, you ain't going to the military, so why you pressing me? But I didn't realize that, you know, from circumstances and choices he made, you know, he wasn't able to go in the military. So that was his dream, you know, like my aunt, you know, my relatives, men in the family, women in the family that did serve our country. And when they came out, they utilized the benefits. They traveled the world. Um, you know, they got the GI Bill to get a home. And, you know, it's like it's a trade off. You can go to school on the GI Bill. So it's benefits out here. But sometimes you just want to follow your own path. And because I didn't go in the military, I was around and at home to watch over my family, which was my mother and my three sisters, because my mom and dad separated, you know, and when I was in my teens, you know, and so my father will often tell me, even though I'm not here no more because of you and because me and my mom, because my mother and my dad separated, he was saying to me that I'm the man of the house while he's not dead. So I took that personally. I wore that badge with honor. So I was the man of the house when he wasn't there, you know, and it was a lot of weight on my shoulders. Like, one, I was the oldest sibling, and I was the only boy of the family, of my immediate family. So when Pops wasn't there and wasn't around, that was my family that I felt responsible for. So I couldn't see past leaving my mother and three little sisters, growing up in a hood full of you know, misfits. Everybody is impacted by that, and we're what's the word I want to say? We all have a level of mental illness, because of the product of our environment. We all misfits to a degree. You know, we all dysfunctional to a degree. You know what I'm saying? And I told my father at one point in time before he died, I said, man, you made a family and then I took care of the family. I had opportunity to go to Atlanta. I had a girlfriend at the time who went to Atlanta and opened a beauty salon and she needed help. And, she wanted people from DC with her that she knew and trust. So she wanted her niece to come, which I was dating her niece. And her niece didn't want to go. She said, look, only way I'm going to go if you go with me. I said, I'm not going down there because I got to look out for my mother and my sisters. I had a girlfriend that went in the army and she went to boot camp in Bakersville, California. Once she graduated, she was in LA. She asked me to come out there and let's start a life together. I say, but I can't leave my mom and my little sisters. Somebody got to watch over them, and that responsibility is my responsibility. Because when Dad told me you're the man of the house, I'm the man of the house. I looked after my mother. I looked after my sisters. You know what I'm saying? So it's very important that a male presence is in the household to give order and to let it be known that the household is protected by a male force, a male figure. Because otherwise, you got wolves surrounding and walking by your house like, yeah, we're going to get up in there. We're going to get up in there and we're going to abuse and use all that we can get from their household. And that's how these predators prey on a household full of women. And that wasn't going down on my watch. And I'm going to pat myself on the back because I did a great job watching over my family. You feel me? From then to now. Everybody grown now, you know. You know, now my niece and nephews, they got kids, and I done taught them how to be parents to watch over their kids. So I'm very proud of that. But I didn't ask to be in that situation because it hindered what I was trying to do. But ain't no use in crying over spilled milk. But I'm going to tell you something. I grew up in the 80s. I'm 53. We get ready to be 54 this year. The Rayford Edmond era. All my guys was getting money. But again, I told you, because you're not in the household, that don't mean you have to stop being a father. My father will call me or come see us, take us out and be and talking to me like, look, you know, I don't want you on these streets. You're an athlete. Go see where your talent take you. Go to school, get an education, you know, and you know, I want you going to the military, but it's your choice ultimately. And I used to like, yeah, I'm gonna go, but I ain't had no intentions of going, you know, because like I said, don't press me on something that you didn't do. And then I don't like the ideology of the military, how they giving you orders, yelling at you, you know, and it's like a dictatorship. But I know that's part of the format. You know what I'm saying? You know, growing up in the hood, you know, you don't want nobody, ain't nobody yelling at you, ain't nobody telling you what to do. That's disrespectful coming from the level of the streets. So why am I going to purposely go into an entity that's going to be doing that? You feel me? In my young mind, that don't add up to me. But as I mature and have matured, I see the benefit of going through that. It builds you up. It makes you become, you know, a machine. It teaches you mind over matter, discipline, and focus if you don't already have it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a lot of benefit of going in the military, but I couldn't see it at the time. And I don't regret not going because the options are coming out of high school. You either go to college, you go vocational, which I've done. I've always been vocational, or you go in the military. So these are the three entities that you supposed to implement it to be successful. You know, my dad is an electrician by trade. My grandfather's one is a locksmith with other skills, but that was his primary. My other grandfather, or my, you know, the locksmith is my dad's side. My my grandfather on my mother's side is a carpenter, you know, in carpentry. So he laid like carpet and he worked in the carpentry field. So, you know, and I tried to go into the field of electrician, but you got to be sharp in math, and I sucked in math. So after a week of trying to be an electrician, starting the program, I went to Phelps Vocational School. Shout out to Phelps in DC. By Spingarn, where I went to Spingarn High School. By the way, was that held the record 30-0 till 30 years later. My nephew, 33-0, broke the record. He went to HD Wilson, and now currently I'm here in Jackson Reed Private School. It's 32-2, won the championship, and now they playing for the uh, CAA, DCIAA tournament title. You know, so yeah, so my nephew, which was on the HD Wilson 2015 team, they hold the title for 33-0 as of right now. I just want to throw that in there. I mean, it's facts. So I'm not bragging, it's just facts. Uh so I went to Spingarn, I went to Phelps, and I went to my counselor. I said, man, I ain't making it in electrician, you know. Uh, there's so much math involved. My head was hurting every day I get out of that because you got to learn equations and whatnot. And so um, the counselor told me, go cross the hall to brick masonry. He said, maybe you could pick that up quick, you know. It's more visual, you know. I'm a visual person. I get a lot from lecture, you know. I realized that going to school online won't help me, you know. Not saying that it can't, but I will excel better in the physical in the classroom with an instructor that will give you life experience through lecture, how he would intertwine the lesson with life stories and events that I can relate to. So I learn better like that. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's something different, but you know, but you know, that's my eclectic way of learning, you know. So I picked up brick masonry. So I'm a mason by trade, you know. When people ask you what you do, you know, the old school would say I'm a bricklayer or I'm a masonry or I'm in masonry. So, you know, I'm naturally a masonry, you know, or a mason, you know. So that's the old school gesture of occupation of a bricklayer. So, with that being said, by trade, I'm a builder, you know. So everybody that didn't go to college in my family or go in the military, we were contractors. That's how we made our money, you know. So I've been vocation educated. I haven't been college educated. I did go to college for 2 semesters at UDC, and I studied mass media. And what's so funny is now I'm in front of the camera talking to you guys. You know, I wanted to write scripts and movies, and if that didn't work out in Hollywood because I was inspired by Spike Lee School Days, because that was my era. That came out in '88, the year I come out. I was in high school when School Days come out, so Spike Lee was everything to me, you know. And so my backup plan was I wanted to be a TV cameraman at a news station, you know. But none of that worked out because life got the life in, and life started pulling me in different directions, starting with the death of my grandmother. Because of the death of my grandmother, I left school, and now I I got to get a job because I got to help my mother with my sisters, and so that embarked on a whole journey of mine of trying to find what it is I need to do for the rest of my life. Brick masonry didn't work out. I worked for a whole summer after I graduated, and I was afraid of heights. I would get dizzy, literally. Anything after the fifth floor, I wasn't having it. I was like, man, I can't do this, you know, so I gotta find something else. But you know, construction paid very well. I didn't mind the heat. I didn't mind being out in the elements of the cold. You just couldn't work when it rained or when it snowed, you know, and unless you were on the inside. But my particular work was on the outside. I'm building the structure. You know, after the carpentry people do the frame, we putting the brick up behind it, right? So, you know, so yeah. Uh so I just say all that to say I'm kind of losing my thought. You know, it's like I didn't go in the military because one, my my dad didn't go in, even though I had relatives that went in the military, but I was like, I ain't like the concept of what I was seeing of getting yelled at and mistreated, you know, crazy, and somebody ordering you what to do. You know, I'm already coming from a war zone of my neighborhood, so but I get it. People were going in the military to get out the neighborhood, to escape, to see something different. So everybody got their own reasons of why they do the military or go in the military. But I was like, well, I just need to make some money and watch over my family. So that's what meant more to me than leaving, because things could have went bad for my mother and my sisters because it was no male there. So I'm happy what God put on my heart to not go in the military because I was almost recruited twice. I was almost going in the Marines, because when I was in college, one of my guys came home from the Marines and was like in my ear, and you know, and he got me on board with even entertaining it when they said, when he told me about the GI Bill, because back in the day they wasn't paying for college. So once they started that program in like 89-ish, so I'm already like a semester or two in, or a semester in. He had my attention from that point. So I go to the recruiting office, and I already went to the Army recruiting office when my dad was in my ear when I was a senior, and I failed the test. And, you know, I'm one of them people, if I don't study no material before I go take a test, it ain't gonna happen. I can't go in cold knowing nothing about whatever I supposed to know. Where's the practice test? Or where's the literature for me to read? They want you to just go in and and all these questions you asking me is not related to my lifestyle. It's related to somebody middle class and up. I understand nothing about the test because it didn't relate to me, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Now you got all these the ASVAB, or you got preparation tools, like you could study these books, you know, the series of uh it's a series and a book. It's a series of book called something for dummies. I recently got a book that's called How to Make Your First Million for Dummies. I got that book, and I'm actually giving it to somebody after I read it, because he's one of my coworkers giving me a book called The Millionaire Next Door. Somebody that's rich and on the low with it, and nobody knows because he's not showing it, because he or she not buying flashy cars and fancy cars. They're not living crazy. They just living life and they papered up. So, you know, that's somebody that I would like to be successful and be on the low with it, because, I don't want to be, targeted, because that's what happens when folks know you papered up and people out here hungry, you're a target. So it's best to, if you want to live a low key life, don't advertise it. And if you want to be all boisterous about it, then you need to take the necessary measures to protect yourself. You need to be in a gated community. You need to have security when you move. You better have a firearm on you, because I used to often worry about Obama being president as a black man, because I felt like if he was going to be assassinated, it would be on the inside, one of them Secret Service agents. I look at too many movies, so that's why I felt like that. I just felt like if somebody was going to run down on him, it'll be from the inside, and he should be able to defend himself, right? So that's why I'm like, when you look at people like Putin over there in Russia, he carries a gun on him. You see what I'm saying? But he was a former soldier. So that's just in his DNA to have a weapon on him. But I felt like Obama needed a weapon, you know, to carry on him. And who's to say he don't carry one or didn't carry one? But yeah, so that's where it's at. That's why it's just important for a man to be in the house, because of his presence alone. It keep outside elements from even plotting on that house. If you showing strength, if you showing, hey, I ain't look, I don't think I'm the baddest dude on the block, but I promise you, you gonna know when you mess with the wrong person at the end of the day, or the wrong family, because it's gonna get like that. You know what I'm saying? And and them boys in blue, they on speed dial. I ain't playing with nobody. Like I said, uh, once I became a civilian, I'm doing civilian things. Let's just say that. You feel me? All that. I don't mess with police and this and that. Hey, look. First of all, if you violate, and if I can't get to you without jeopardizing what I got going on, I'm gonna let them boys get at you. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it's gonna be. All that, or you this and that. I don't care nothing about all that. I don't. Never did. You know. Nobody dictates to me. And that's why I knew I couldn't go in the military, because I'm very stubborn. And ain't nobody gonna be screaming at me. But you know, my coworker was like, well, we ain't talking about the 53-year-old David Chambers. We talking about a 19-year-old David Chambers, somebody that full of life and ready for change. You would have been a great master sergeant because you take care of your people. You look after your people. So I can see you looking after your troops. So I appreciate that compliment, Mr. Shaw. You feel me? You know, I salute you. That's one of my coworkers. Uh, you know, retired military Air Force dude. So you know, he talked to me about different branches and ranks and everything, and he was like, you would have been a great leader because you headstrong and you care about your folks. And I was like, facts. I appreciate that. But let me say this: we often have the conversation about what can we do to better our community from the violence, from the carjackings and whatnot. I lived through the 80s, which was, you know, we averaged like 300 killings like a year, that whole decade, from 1980 to 1990. You know what I'm saying? When Rafa Edmond went to jail in 89, I think, it slowed down because he was like the guy bringing in the product. It didn't stop, but it slowed down. And even the killings and whatnot. A lot of people, a lot of young guys in their 20s, under 25, was rich off the streets from the drug trade. So it was a lot of uh, jealousy going on, beef, a lot of beef about women, a lot of beef about who doing it the better, the best. It was beef about turf and neighborhood, and yeah, and so it was crazy, in that time because everybody had money. You know, if you wasn't millionaire rich, you was damn near close to it. And once you think about it, it just show how messed up the community was that you had all these smokers buying drugs that allowed, let's say, 30% of guys on the streets being rich and well off, having hundreds of thousands at their disposal because folks was smoking like they was. I was around it. I was in it. So therefore, I think what really saved me was my structure. My dad on my back. My grandmother was on some, I loved her. I respected her. She was my world. And she used to tell me, I know what your friends doing. But you don't have to do that. You figure it out. You can read, you can write, you can comprehend, figure it out. How to exist in this world without having to kill yourself, get yourself killed, or without having to give them people time out your life. You my grandson, and I know you better than that. It's in you to elevate above what you see outside your door. So figure it out. Go get that job you don't want. That job is going to be the job that take you where you want to go because it's going to be there. It's going to be people there like you that don't want to be there. and you guys or women gonna get together and you guys gonna brainstorm on what's next. And together you're gonna figure it out. But that's the first step. And she was talking about a job like McDonald's, summer jobs and stuff like that. You know, you gotta start from the bottom. And then she used to say to me, whatever you do early on, you're gonna do later on in life. Basically, whatever kind of money you start getting early on is what kind of money you're gonna get used to, and you're gonna have that need to get that same amount of money or kind of money later on in life. So if you're a drug dealer at 13, you're gonna grow up being a drug dealer at 23, at 33, 43, and 53. If you live that long. But if you learn how to discipline yourself and focus yourself on getting a check and learning skills to pay the bills, that's a vocational quote that we used to use. Because vocation teaches you skills to go and earn money. Okay. We also, in the world of vocation, they used to say to us, you need 4 skills under your belt to survive out here, to never be hungry and always have a roof over your head. You need 4 skills, no matter what it is, you know. So I would add to that, every decade you need to learn something new, no matter how big or small, that can earn you money. I got a homie, I ain't seen him in years, but back in the day, this dude went to bartending school, which was like for 3 weekends, 8-hour days, Saturday and Sunday. He got certified. My man worked at Applebee's in the morning from like 10 to 4. Then he went and worked at the Renaissance Hotel in DC from 6 to 10. And from 12 to 3 in the morning, he worked at a club every day. He collected checks from all 3 of these entities and made $500 in tips a week. He was killing the game. So what did I just tell you? My man learned the skill and he got his grind on, living a good lifestyle. We was in our 20s when my man was doing this, you know. So I'm just saying, it's all about your perspective and what you do with it. If you lazy, then you're gonna make lazy money. If you're a grinder, you're gonna see the fruit of your labor. You're gonna see the fruit of your labor at a high level. It's just what it is. It's just what it is, you know. So let me get back to what I think that will make the community safer and better. And I'm gonna close it out. I ain't talked this long in a long time, and it feel good, you know, touching on this subject. Okay. Have you ever wondered why we go to school for free from grade school, middle school, and high school, but we can't go to college for free? Why we can't go to college for free? Have you ever asked yourself that? Why higher education got a cost? Why? If society really wanted success stories, why school on a higher level got a cost. So I heard Steve Harvey say, well, who want to keep the water and the lights on? Well, rich folks can afford to send their kids to school. But if you middle class or you poor, school should be free. But I thought about it, how to keep the economics in the school. Because you're right. Who gonna pay for the water and the lights to be on? For one, the state can. You see all this money we giving in Ukraine. We we giving all this money to Ukraine. We got homeless all on the street everywhere in America. We letting different nationalities in, like from Afghanistan, people coming in from the border, and we making money. We revising money. We freeing up money from different places to take care of these folks. So if you really wanted success stories, why college gotta be so much and why it gotta cost? So here's my opinion and my idea. Make college free for those that want to go. You do a 2-year degree and you graduate with a bachelor's, an associate. You got 5 years to pay your loan back for your degree at $500 a month. And that starts 6 months that you're out of school, like they do when you do graduate from school, or you go to school and you get loans and you don't finish, you still got to pay the money back. And that starts 6 months after you get out of school. And if you don't pay it, then they're going to garnish your paycheck. You got to work. People die with this kind of debt. So for 5 years, you got to pay $500 back to that institution that allowed you to get a degree. Now, I say that. Now, okay, now if you go for a 4-year degree, let's make that 10 years that you pay $500 back to that institution. And you're going to sign paperwork that you're going to do this, or they're going to garnish your money. Least like that, at least at that point, it's a cutoff after 5 or 10 years. You don't die with school debt. People that don't want to go to school, it ain't that they don't want to go. It's looked at as a setup, because check this. I'm already at a disadvantage. Yeah, I can get a loan to go to school. But once I go, it's no guaranteed I'm going to get a job once I get out. So I wind up still not even in my field, making less money, and I owe all this debt. It's a setup. So why would I want to go to school? To put myself deeper in the hole. Make it make sense. So my proposal is 2-year degree. You got 5 years of $500 to pay back to the institution to keep the lights and water on, along with fundraisers that the school could do. The alumni is giving back. Okay? That's my idea. If you made college free from the gate, and then you pay back on the back end, and it's a cutoff on the back end. 5 or 10 years, depending on if you do a 2-year or 4-year degree. That will work. You will have more people going to school and more success stories. And kids follow what they see that's successful. If your mom and dad got a college degree, most likely percentage wise, maybe at 80%, your kids gonna follow what you're doing. Because they see the success story that you're having. More people could earn more money and live better lifestyles. So I really believe that people wouldn't be out here carjacking and taking stuff for people if we had more of that advantage going on. But guess what? I seen something way back when. I don't know what movie it was, or was it a documentary? It was an old rich man, and they was talking about why everybody can't be successful. You know what that old white man said? Who gonna serve me my food? Who gonna clean my house if we all successful? So it's designed to keep people from making it. You know, we live in a world of have and a have nots. So it comes down to who really want it and who really don't. You know, and then you're on a desperate level of stepping on people to get where you want and where you want to go. Because it's a dog eat dog world. Because only a few going to get through. So that's what I'm saying. So that's my opinion how things can get better. Make college free. And when those that get a degree, you got to pay some money back to the school. 5 years or 10 years. Now, if you start a program and you drop out, okay, you just going to be where you at. You're going to have to figure it out. You know, you didn't complete the program, so you still at a disadvantage because you didn't finish. So you're not going to go to a higher tier unless you do it in another way, like vocational or the military, because these were the three options that you were privy to when you came out of school. You could either go in the military, you can go to college, or go to vocational school and learn a skill. Learn skills to pay the bills. You feel me? So yeah, college ain't for everybody, but if college education is the way, why do we have to pay for it? When grade school, middle school, and high school is free. Why you not charging for everything else? Why the education that supposed to put you in position, why do that cost? I don't get it. Because it's a form of separation. It's a form and a way to block you. That's the